He was the father of a future billionaire,
God bless you, Melvin Combs. I can feel you right next to me.
but died in a drug deal gone wrong.
I decided to embrace the entrepreneurial spirit of my father.
Melvin Combs didn't just vanish. He was erased.
He was a drug dealer, he was a hustler.
Today, we reveal the untold story of Melvin Combs. How his tragic fall intersected with the brutal worlds of Frank Lucas and Nicky Barnes.
Nicky Barnes was the #1 heroin dealer in the country.
Nicky Barnes was rising to the top of New York's drug trade.
And one of the members of the council was the very famous Frank Lucas.
Me and Melvin Combs did friend.
And how his son, Sean Diddy Combs,
Honoring Sean Diddy Combs,
rose from that darkness. What would you do if your father's legacy was buried under New York's drug empire? Drop your thoughts below. Was Diddy destined to rise, or did he rewrite fate? Before there was Diddy, there was Melvin. Harlem in the 1950s wasn't just the heart of Black America, it was the heartbeat of hustlers, jazz legends, civil rights warriors, and streetwise survivors. Melvin Combs came up in this intense blend of soul and struggle, where poverty was constant but ambition ran high. The streets were rich with rhythm, but soaked in danger. You either made moves or got moved out. Melvin wasn't born a kingpin, but Harlem had a way of turning young dreamers into desperate dealers. His story didn't begin with crime, it began with survival. And survival demands sacrifice. In Harlem, the price of ambition was everything. Melvin enlisted in the U.S. Air Force, not out of patriotism, but desperation. The military was one of the few escapes for a young black man seeking something more than prison or poverty. For a while, discipline replaced chaos. He saw new cities, met new people, and even briefly believed there might be another path. The streets never forget their own. When he returned home, Harlem had changed, but so had Melvin. Janice Smalls was everything Melvin wasn't. Educated, focused, and untouched by the underworld. A student at Howard University, she had dreams of law school. Their connection was quick, passionate, and complex. She saw the charm in Melvin, but not the chaos trailing behind. When she got pregnant with their son, she hoped it would anchor him to something real. Instead, it became a countdown clock. Sean Diddy Combs was born in 1969 into a love already being torn apart by secrets, street tension, and whispers of betrayal. At the time, Harlem's drug trade was run like a Fortune 500 company, with far more violence. Frank Lucas ruled uptown with blue magic heroin imported straight from Southeast Asia using military caskets. Nicky Barnes, Mr. Untouchable, created a cartel modeled after the Mafia. These men weren't corner boys, they were CEOs of destruction. Melvin Combs operated underneath them, a trusted middleman and courier in a billion-dollar drug economy. By the early 70s, the feds were cracking down like never before. President Nixon had declared war on drugs, and Harlem was enemy territory. DEA agents, federal informants, and crooked cops were all part of the mix. Melvin Combs, caught in the middle, was juggling money, drugs, and secrets. He knew the walls were closing in, but he didn't know how fast. Federal heat was melting everything in sight. He had money in his pockets, enemies on his heels, and a growing sense he barely got to hold. The danger wasn't just jail, it was death. Harlem was burning, and Melvin was standing too close to the fire. January 26, 1972. It should have been an ordinary night, but Melvin Combs never made it home. His body was discovered slumped over the steering wheel of his car, bullet wounds to the head, parked near Central Park West. No one heard the shots, no one claimed the body, no one ever got charged. It was cold, calculated, and clean. It was a textbook execution, Harlem style. Janice Smalls was left with a 3-year-old and no safety net. Melvin's death wasn't just a personal tragedy, It was a financial death sentence. With no insurance, no support, and the looming stigma of his past, Janice was on her own. She picked up extra shifts, moved in with family, and sacrificed everything to give her son a chance at life outside the game that killed his father. Melvin wasn't just a casualty of the drug trade, he was woven into its core. His name might not ring like Frank Lucas or Nicky Barnes, but those who knew the game knew his role. Rumors say Melvin was holding sensitive intel, numbers, routes, and names that could have shaken the entire Harlem hierarchy. Some insiders believe his death wasn't over money, it was about information. He knew too much and said too little. Lucas and Barnes never acknowledged Melvin publicly, which in that world speaks volumes. Silence wasn't just golden, it was survival, and erasing someone clean was standard protocol when loyalty slipped or leverage rose. Between 1968 and 1975, Harlem became the epicenter of America's heroin nightmare. Kids as young as 12 were shooting up. Entire buildings were gutted by addiction. The local economy thrived on poison, and the morgues couldn't keep up. This wasn't just a drug crisis, it was a generational erasure. Melvin wasn't the first to fall, and he wouldn't be the last. Imagine being 3 years old, your father gunned down, and no one talks about it. That silence became a ghost in the house, always present, never named. For Sean Combs, that absence turned into obsession. He never saw the game, but he felt its consequences. Every grind, every move, every dollar was done in the shadow of Melvin's murder. Loss became his launchpad. While other kids played ball or chased girls, Sean was watching, learning, plotting his escape. He wasn't just trying to succeed, he was trying to redeem a legacy. And every late night in the studio, every business deal was a quiet answer to the question, what would my father think? Melvin Combs never got a track. No diss song, no documentary, no hood mural. But his story lives on, in silence, in legacy, and in the man who turned grief into greatness. Every time you hear a bad boy beat or see a business deal with Diddy's name on it, you're witnessing a ghost move in plain sight. Legacy isn't what you leave, it's what your children build from your ashes. Melvin's name isn't chanted, it's not trending, but it matters. Because without Melvin's fall, there is no Diddy rise. His death wasn't the end of the story, it was the catalyst. Melvin Combs died alone in a car on a cold January night. No headlines, no justice, just silence. But his legacy didn't end in that front seat. It rose in the boardrooms, lit up arenas, and echoed through the soundtrack of a generation. Diddy didn't just honor his father, he outlived his shadow. This is more than a cautionary tale. It's a blueprint, a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the street game, something powerful can still be born. Something louder than bullets, bigger than betrayal, stronger than silence. Remember Melvin Combs, not for how he died, but for what he sparked.